Okay, so yes, I'm a first year PhD student at the University of York. I have been working on something outside of Aconite, but Aconite was a side effect, and essentially what it is a way of annotating an original meta model to then be able to give yourself the Sirius viewpoints. I will be going over mainly starting with a demo, and then I will end up going over why Sirius and what Aconite does, and then some of the upcoming work that will be happening with Aconite. So here we have our basic meta model in emphatic, and we start off by labeling it with the Sirius annotation. We are then able to just label very simply. We just have to give it a name, which is going to be effort. In this case, I'm going to put a task, which is just going to be a node. And then as long as we put the container is back to the diagram, which is effort. What we're then able to do is we can generate the eco model, and then immediately we can get the ODesign file. And what we have done here essentially, is it the original? Right, okay. So I had already added in person from the start, and then what we can do is we can immediately go over to here. We can open up our diagram. What's happening with it? Sorry, just give me a second. Okay, there we go. So that was just an error. So I'm just going to resize them all. As you can see, that what we end up with is a bunch of nodes that are arranged. The people have been automatically generated their name because it defaults to name, whereas for the node of task, we need to give it its own label expression, which will then be able to give it the name, which we're going to call title. And then we go through the process of generating again. And what we'll get automatically is all of the same things as we had before. So then obviously Aconite is able to add all the nodes, but we also need to be able to add other things. So for example, we can create an edge between the two, which we're going to start from the effort, as this is the effort one. I'm going to copy this one across. And as we can see with this one, it points back to our original diagram. It gives the label expression, which is percentage, which will give it a nice look. And then it just needs to point out that the source is from the person reference and the task reference. And what we are then able to do is we're then able to generate the new version. And if we automatically arrange all of these, you can see that we're able to get a nice diagram with all of our edges automatically added, even though all we've actually done is added a few annotations to this diagram. Not only this, but we're also able to influence some of the styling, so we can add the colors to the diagrams. And it will automatically come across. Not only this, but with Aconite, what we're able to do is we can go into our Sirius in the first place. We can make this change, we can save. We're gonna then move it over to this other file just for the purpose of this demonstration. And what Aconite is then able to do is to automatically generate back the version, and this version will also include the changes that I've made from the Sirius version. So here we can see the light blue and we have the light green. So it can Aconite is both able to go forwards and then go back again. Not only this, but Aconite also has the capabilities of adding in many diagrams all at the same time, and to utilize the same elements across multiple of their diagrams, to mean that you don't have to rewrite anything. So here in the container, we can add tasks to this diagram, and this will give it the exact same outlook as this one. Here we go. So now we have the second diagram, which we should be able to create. And as you can see, this has the exact same things as the other one. So as much as we're able to create the edges based on the on a class, we're also able to use the references to be able to create our edges. So we're going to create a one for our dependencies between all of the different tasks that we're working on. So all of the different tasks. And the container, we always need to point back to our original diagram. It is back to the task diagram. And again, we can generate back. And here we can see all of the different, the way through it all. So essentially all Sirius is doing in the background is it is an interpreter for the model view, which was that ODesign file, and it requires overlapping information between both the meta model, and when you're doing the ODesign, it needs both to add the information from the meta model as well as all of the graphical information. With it, Aconite, we're able to essentially co-evolve these two things, which means that you don't have to rewrite all of the references back to the original meta model, as they'll automatically happen based on where they're attached within the diagram. Not only this, but what Aconite is able to do is it is able to search through the most likely way that you're doing your referencing for that specific diagram. And therefore it will be able to get you a diagram that isn't full of anything that doesn't make sense in that diagram based on what the original starting node. This therefore reduces the amount of surplus work and repeating yourself, especially when it comes to if you're changing your original meta model, you need to, with Sirius, you need to go back in and change all of the labels to make sure they all match up. Whereas with Aconite, it would automatically transfer these across. And this is even more important when it comes to structure, because once you've passed it back and it goes forward again, it will still be able to find the correct structure of the referencing. The other benefit is obviously that it is just a single file, which means it's quite easy to maintain and put back into any version controlling system as one single file. So in the future, there's going to be a lot of work on adding more pseudonyms and being able to add tools. And that it will also be able to go through and add something to the default file, which will allow you to have specific defaults for specific projects, which means you'll be able to specify the things like the default color in this example was light yellow, but this could all be changed. There's also going to be some more work on adding the ability to add Sirius tools. There is currently one that exists within this, and I will copy that one in. Okay, that seems to be having a problem. That's why there's going to be more work on that. And the plan is also to be able to reverse these tools back again. And that's going to require a lot more work of getting into the nitty gritty of what's happening with Sirius in the background. Not only that, but Aconite also works with containers, but going into that during this presentation would take a lot more time, as it's got a lot more nuance to what can happen with the containers. And then the last thing that we would end up adding would be the ability to add polishing transformations for those who are aware of Eugenia. It's essentially being able to add some last minute adjustments to make it a lot easier, so you don't have to specify everything in the annotations, as they can get quite long. And that's everything.